Hello students, this is your English lesson. Students, today we will read unit number 9, 3 languages from Oxford Modern English 3. So we start our lesson. A count lived in a cold, mountainous country with his son and his wife. There were many happy people in the country who smiled as they worked and played. But the count was not a happy man. Others who saw the count's fine house would say, "There's a fine house of a fortunate man." But the count could only see the cracks, the crooked edges, and the costs of running the house. When people saw the count's young son toddling after his father, toddling, walking steadily, they admired his sweet face and smiled at his quick pace. When they spoke to the son, they said, "Oh, what a bright fellow you are!" But the count could not see this. He said to his wife, "The boy is so slow." He complained to the tutors, "Why isn't he learning more? Why doesn't he know anything?" The tutors were afraid to say much in response because the count was a frightening man. Over time, the count became fixed on the idea that his son could learn nothing. He made him stay in his room with heavy books full of the writings of the greatest philosophers and mathematicians who have ever lived. The count was bothered when the son only played with the books. Some years later, the count decided to send his son away to learn from a great master in the south. After a year, the son returned. The count called him to his study to ask him, "Well, have you learnt anything?" The young man replied, "Yes, father, I have learned a lot." "Well, tell me," said his father, "what are the 3 things that you are most pleased to have learned?" The son smiled and said, "First, I can understand what dogs say when they bark." At this, the count raised his eyebrows, but he could not think of anything to say because he was so surprised. His son continued, "Second, I know what birds are singing when they sing." The son closed his eyes to think and did not notice that his father's face had twisted into a terrible frown. "Third," smiled the son, "I can understand frogs." He looked up at his father and smiled again. "What?" roared the count. His voice was so loud that the pans in the kitchen rattled. "I send you away to a great master, and you come back with a head full of nonsense instead of knowledge. Get out! Get out!" The son slowly walked out of the room and closed the door quietly behind him. That night, the count decided that he wished to never see his son again. He ordered his guards, "Take him to the forest and kill him. Leave immediately. Bring me back some evidence that you have done as I command." The guards went to the son's room to get him and were surprised to see him ready to leave. As they walked to the forest, the son talked to them and told them all about the things they passed. When they came to a clearing deep in the forest, the men looked uncomfortable. They did not want to kill the charming young man. "Just run away and never return," said the chief guard. "I will not have innocent blood on my hands." The son smiled, thanked them, and walked off into the forest. The chief guard paid a visit to the butcher on the way back, and the count believed that the evidence he saw was real. For a few years the son traveled and he had many adventures. Once, as a huge storm was beginning, he arrived in a village but there was no here to could stay. He asked at all of the houses, but many people would not open their doors, and no one had any room. At the last house in the town, a man said kindly to him, "Stranger, you need a place to hide from the gale? It is going to be a rough night. Find shelter fast." "Do you know of anywhere I can stay tonight?" asked the son. "We have no room. There is a tower on the hill, but the wild dogs around it will eat you if they catch you. Try the next house." The man shut the door quickly to keep out the wind and the rain. The son walked up the hill to the tower. The next morning, as the townspeople were working together to clear up the damage from the storm, they wondered what had happened to the stranger. Just then the son walked into the town. Everyone stopped work and stared. "Those dogs are guarding a treasure that is rightfully yours. They told me how to get it." The villagers crowded around in amazement. They were amazed that he was alive, and they were amazed at what he had to say. After a while, a team of villagers, led by the son, went up towards the tower. When they returned, they were carrying boxes of gold and cheering loudly. The villagers shared the gold with the son and invited him to stay, but he had not finished his journey. So, after a few days of rest, he set off again. By now, the son was a man. He wanted to settle in one place. He decided to travel to an ancient city ruled by a wise leader and try to find work there. He walked for a long time by a river that led to the city. The frogs on the river banks croaked loudly, and the son listened to them carefully. They were spreading the news that the wise leader of the ancient city had died and there was no one to replace him. The frog song grew louder and louder as the sun drew closer to the city. They were singing that the new leader was coming. As the sun approached the city, he could see huge crowds waiting by the gate and on the city walls. At the entrance to the great city, two doves flew down and whispered in the sun's ears, "You shall be the father of these people and their lands." The son was not sure that he could do this, but he walked in through the city gate. As he stepped through the gate, the frogs stopped croaking, the crowd stopped talking, and there was silence. Slowly, a whisper began to run through the crowd. "It's him. He's the one. This must be the sign. He must be the one." A palace official stepped forward and said, "The signs are clear. You are our next leader. Come forward and claim your title by saying our sacred words." The son smiled and the crowds cheered. The two doves whispered the words in his ears, and the son spoke them clearly. From that day on, the son was a wise leader to all his people and their lands. Exercises. A. Questions. 1. What three things did the son learn when he was sent to the great master? Answer. The son learned to understand the language of dogs when they bark, the songs of birds, and the language of frogs when he was sent to the great master. 2. Why do you think the guards did not follow their orders? Answer. The guards do not follow the Count's order because they do not want to kill a charming and innocent man like the son. 3. What does the sun find out from the dogs around the tower? Answer. The sun finds out from the dogs around the tower that they are guarding a treasure hidden in the tower that belongs to the villagers. 4. What does the sun find out from the frogs? Answer. The sun finds out from the frogs that the wise leader of the ancient city was no more and there was no one who could be the leader there. 5. What do they do to help him? Answer. They sang out loudly that the new leader was coming. Question 6. Do you think the Count was right to command his son's death? Answer. No, he was not right to command his son's death. How can a father kill his own son? B. What should have the Count done instead? Answer. He should have listened him carefully and tested his wisdom and knowledge. 7. The son was honest and kind to people whom he met along his journey. Narrate an incident when you were helpful and kind to someone. Answer. Once upon a time, a woman, one of my neighbors, came to our home for financial help. She was very poor. I served her with tea and helped her with money. She was very happy at that time. B. Reference to context. He made him stay in his room with heavy books full of the writings of the greatest philosophers and mathematicians that have ever lived. 1. Who was made to stay in his room? Answer. The Count's son was made to stay in his room. 2. Who made him stay in his room? Answer. The son was made to stay in the room by his father, the Count. 3. Why did he make him stay in his room? Answer. The Count made his son stay in the room because he believed that his son was slow and that he was not learning enough. 4. What did he do with the books in his room? Answer. The son played around with the books in his room. C. Words and meaning. Look at how these phrases are used in the story and match each one to its meaning. 1. Rightfully yours, legally or morally belonging to you. 2. Running the house, managing and organizing a home. 3. Claim your title, to demand something that is due to you. 2. Find 4 different phrases in the story that refer to time. For example, for a few years. Answer. Some years later. After a year. Walked for a long time. Never return. Thanks for listening. For new videos, don't forget to subscribe my channel. And if you like my videos, please share and like.